Till today, the theft stories you must have heard were about thieves robbing banks, stealing cars, or looting museums. But today, the story I am going to tell you is so shocking and thrilling because in this story, just two men stole an aeroplane from an airport. And this was not a small aeroplane. It was a Boeing 727 aircraft, counted among the biggest aeroplanes. And the most surprising part is that just two men stole such a huge aircraft, something almost impossible. After that, neither the aircraft was ever found again, nor did anyone ever come to know about the two men inside it. So how did these two thieves steal such a huge aircraft in broad daylight? And what was the reason behind this aeroplane theft? You will be shocked to know. The story begins on 26 May 2003 when a man named Maury Joseph received a phone call. The call was from the airport ground staff. They told him that two unknown men had flown away with a Boeing 727 aircraft. Immediately, Maury informed American officials and all aviation authorities that a Boeing 727 had been stolen. After this news, calls were made to every airport that had large runways capable of handling Boeing 727 landings. But this aircraft never landed anywhere. This story is from Luanda, Angola, a city on the west coast of South Africa, where there is an international airport named 4 de Fevereiro. At this airport, a Boeing 727 had been parked for the past 14 months. This aircraft was manufactured in 1975 and had blue, red and white stripes painted on it. For 25 years, this aircraft was flown by American Airlines. Later, it was sold to a Miami-based company called Aerospace Sales. After buying this 28-year-old aircraft, Aerospace Sales leased it to TAAG Airlines of Angola so they could earn money from it. But this aircraft never returned from that airport. Because it had been standing there for 14 months, TAAG Airlines came under a debt of $4 million USD. This was the airport fee they had to pay to 4 de Fevereiro Airport for using the runway. Later, orders were given to remove all the passenger seats from this aircraft. The plane, which once carried passengers, was now being converted to carry diesel and petrol. Meanwhile, Aerospace Sales wanted their aircraft back from TAAG Airlines. They planned to send it to South Africa for repairs so that it wouldn't get damaged further while standing at the airport. But then something happened that shook both American and South African aviation. On the evening of 25 May 2003, around 6 p.m., two men were seen sneaking into the Boeing 727 aircraft at 4 de Fevereiro Airport without any permission. One of them was Ben Charles Padilla, a mechanic hired from the Republic of Congo, Central Africa. He was also a certified pilot, but only for small private planes. He had no training to fly a Boeing 727. The second man has never been clearly identified. Until today, it is not known whether there was anyone else inside the plane or not. Now, flying a Boeing 727 was not simple. It needed a crew of 3, one pilot and 2 co-pilots. But these two men had no such team. Still, the Boeing 727 slowly started moving on the runway. The most shocking part, the pilot never contacted the control tower, nor did he respond to any of their calls. The aircraft moved around the runway for some time, with all its lights switched off. And then, in front of the eyes of the control tower staff, it suddenly took off towards the southwest. It flew into the Atlantic Ocean and disappeared. From that day onward, the aircraft and the two men inside it were never seen again. This strange and mysterious takeoff shocked the entire 4 de Febrero airport. Immediately, a massive search operation began. Since the aircraft belonged to an American company, both FBI and CIA got involved in the search. From the start, they believed that the aircraft had been stolen to be used in an attack. They feared that it might fall into the wrong hands. Just a short while before disappearing, the aircraft had been filled with 14,800 gallons of fuel, which gave it the ability to fly 2,400 kilometers non-stop. During this time, the pilot contacted the control tower only once. He asked for permission to land in the small country of Seychelles, East Africa. Permission was granted, but the aircraft never landed there either. On the tail of the Boeing 727 was its serial number N844AA. But this serial number was never found again. Not in any jungle, not in any ocean. When people heard about this disappearance, everyone was left stunned. Because it was such a huge aircraft, how could it just vanish into thin air? Many questions were raised. The biggest question, how can such a massive plane simply disappear in the sky? Soon several theories started circulating. The FBI and CIA initially thought it was stolen for a terrorist attack. But when their investigations found no trace of the aircraft, no crash reports, and no attack evidence, they started to realize the disappearance of this aircraft had no connection with any attack. It was something else, something still unsolved.
The FBI and CIA were now completely confused. They had no idea where to even begin their investigation. So, they decided that the best way forward was to collect as much information as possible about the two men who had taken away the plane. That, they believed, would eventually lead them to the truth of this case. According to FBI and CIA estimates, the man flying the plane was about 50 years old. His name was Ben Charles Padilla. Since childhood, Ben was deeply passionate about flying. By the time he turned 20, he had already joined an aviation school. There, he trained to fly small airplanes. After some time, he received his certified license to fly small planes. Along with that, he also received training in aircraft mechanical equipment and maintenance. Before this aircraft disappeared, Ben Padilla had been living in Luanda with his wife and 2 children for the past 15 years. He had even prepared his will in advance, making sure that if anything ever happened to him, all his property would go to his wife and children. When the FBI tried to investigate the background of the second man inside the aircraft, they found nothing useful. They only knew that his name was John Munn and that he was a resident of the Republic of Congo. Ben Padilla, before this incident, had been working in aircraft maintenance. He had done jobs for TAAG Airlines, for aerospace sales, and even freelanced for its owner, Morris Joseph. So when Morris Joseph decided to take his plane back from TAAG Airlines and wanted to get it repaired and modified, he sent Ben Padilla to 4 de Febrero Airport to personally supervise the aircraft's maintenance. Ben was supposed to get the plane ready, and along with that, a pilot and co-pilot were also hired to take the aircraft to Johannesburg, where a new buyer was ready to purchase it. Until just 2 days before the aircraft disappeared, Ben Padilla was fully engaged in his work. But then came the big question. Why did he suddenly decide to steal the plane? What was the real plan behind it? After the aircraft went missing, when Morris Joseph was informed that Ben Padilla had flown away with the plane, he was completely shocked. At first, he thought maybe the plane had been taken out just for a test flight. But hours passed and it did not return. He realized the truth. Immediately, he informed American officials and other airports that his plane had been stolen. he sent out an alert to every airport that if a Boeing 727 asked for permission to land, they should immediately force it to land and catch the pilot. But the biggest question in everyone's mind was, why did Ben Padilla take such a step? And where did the aircraft go? After Ben disappeared, his brother Joseph Padilla gave his own theory. He believed that maybe Ben had been forced into it. Perhaps he had been taken along unwillingly inside the plane. According to Joseph's theory, either Ben had already died or he had been captured by hijackers. There was another detail that caught the FBI's attention. Ben often spoke about hijackings. In fact, he once told Joseph that if hijackers ever forced him to fly a plane, he would rather crash it than obey their orders. So the FBI believed that if this plane really had been hijacked, it should have crashed somewhere by now. But neither was there any crash, nor was any wreckage of the aircraft ever found. A few months after the disappearance, reports came in from Papua New Guinea. A plane had been spotted there that looked very similar to the stolen Boeing 727. The FBI and CIA were informed that this could be the same missing aircraft. But when they investigated, it turned out to be false. Despite all the efforts of the FBI and CIA, the plane remained missing. So now they began to suspect that maybe this was actually a financial scam. And their suspicion pointed directly towards aerospace sales and its owner, Morris Joseph. The officer in charge of the case, Maston Robson, even said that it was possible Morris Joseph himself had arranged for the plane to disappear. That way, he could claim the insurance money. And it was also possible that the plane was stolen for some other illegal work. But these were just theories. No solid evidence was ever found against anyone. Meanwhile, the condition of the aircraft had already been very poor, and on top of that, TAAG Airlines had accumulated a debt of $4 million in unpaid airport fees. So another theory emerged. Maybe TAAG Airlines themselves had arranged for the plane to disappear, just to escape the debt. This left the FBI and CIA stuck between different theories, with no clear direction. The strongest theory remained that one against Morris Joseph, since he had already been accused of insurance fraud before. If this disappearance was linked to a hijacking or theft, he could easily make an insurance claim. That was the theory the FBI found most convincing. For many years, the FBI and CIA continued to search for the missing aircraft. But they failed. To this day, no one knows what happened on the night of 25 May 2003, when the plane vanished forever. Even years later, people continued to believe that the plane must have crashed into the ocean, since Ben Padilla had no real experience of flying such a big aircraft. Some believe that the Angolan Air Force may have shot it down because it was flying without permission through their territory. And another theory suggested that a drug cartel may have hijacked it. Because its passenger seats had already been removed, the Boeing 727 was perfect for carrying large amounts of drugs across borders. This was the story of one of the world's largest aircrafts, the Boeing 727, that disappeared without leaving a single trace. And even the world's two most powerful investigation agencies, the FBI and CIA, could never find it. Eventually, the FBI closed the case with the statement that Morris Joseph may have arranged the disappearance for insurance money, using Ben Padilla as a scapegoat. But since there was no solid proof, they could never arrest him. So this case still remains an unsolved mystery,